So far, many of the rules for the operation of the grammar have concerned things that should happen, where they should happen, things that should move, where they should move. But we could imagine that in a complex system like this, almost like a town with 4,400 roads or something like that, there could come a time when there needs to be a rule that gives one sutra the right of way over another sutra. Say both sutras are coming together at the same intersection, and there needs to be a way sometimes of clarifying which one gets to go ahead. So that's a way of describing our next sutra, which is 142 in Ashtadhyayi and 175 in Siddhanta Kaumadi. Vipratishete param karyam. Vipratishete param karyam. Vipratisheta is a conflict. Now, vipratishedhe is saptami of vipratisheta. It's a particular kind of saptami usage. And once we've gotten through all of our Sunday sutras, we will discover how much more there is to the different cases than we might imagine. Now, in this case, vipratishete is what in English is called a locative absolute. This is called sati saptami, and this particular usage is defined by Sutra 2337. Now, sometimes I refer to sutras in the future and go through them because they will be of some significance soon. This one's pretty far away and not worth the complexity of going through it, except I think it's good to know that Sanskrit does indeed have its very own locative absolute, and that is called Sati Saptami, and that's the sutra that governs that usage. Now, what is locative absolute? It has the meaning of vipratisheta in the locative is when there is a conflict. When there is a conflict. When a conflict occurs, param karyam, the latter one, karyam, is to be done. So when there is a conflict between two sutras, the latter one should be applied. Now, there are, as you might imagine, some slightly finer points, maybe or maybe not important to us, but the first is just logic. They have to be two sutras that both have application in the situation. In other words, they both fill the criteria to be applied in a given moment. Now, so in that case, the one that comes later in Ashtadhyayi is the one that carries the day. And as you can imagine, once again, we see what is different, one of the many things that's different about learning the sutras in order. Because A, you can't figure out the anuvritti really without that. And B, the order really matters. And this is one of the simpler ways of saying that, because that's how simple conflicts of right-of-way can be resolved. Now, of course, there's one bigger thing that we have mentioned before. We had one or two sutras where we talked about it, and that is asiditva. Asiditva. That means disappearance, non-existence. And that is triggered by Sutra 821, Purvatra Siddham. Purvatra Siddham. With regard to the preceding, there is non-existence. Non-existence. Now, that means that quite a few sutras are in this asiditva section. And if there is a sutra in the asiditva portion, and there will be, we will see that in Sandhi sutras sometimes, that applies to an earlier sutra, and it may seem to conflict with another sutra in between that's not asiditva, it doesn't count because it does not exist as far as the earlier sutra is concerned. So just had to point that out. The other thing is we don't really have to scratch our heads too much about this because any plausible conflict has already been discussed in detail, but we do need to understand this right of way, this rule. So, vipratishete param karyam, vipratishete param karyam. When there is a conflict, the latter one is to be applied.